The Eyes Have It by Ruskin Bond. আজকে আমরা যে টেক্সটটা পড়বো সেটা হচ্ছে The Eyes Have It by Ruskin Bond. In this story, we will find that Bond exploits the situational irony that originates between two people who meet by chance in a railway compartment. But what is irony? Irony is involving a situation in which actions have an effect that is opposite from what was intended. And the outcome is contrary to what is expected. So situational irony occurs when there is an incongruity between what is expected to happen and what actually happens. So let's see. A young man and the girl will find that they are unaware of their individual blindness. They converse or they talk with each other from the conviction, from the firmly held belief or opinion that both of them can see. But entire গল্পটা কিন্তু I বলে লিখেছে narrator. It's in a sort of an autobiographical narration. I had the train compartment to myself up to Rohana, then a girl got in. যারা ওকে ছাড়তে এসেছিল, যে couple who came to see her off were probably her parents because they were very anxious about her comfort. আর মহিলা যিনি ছাড়তে এসেছিলেন তিনি মেয়েটাকে ডিটেইল ইনস্ট্রাকশনস দিল কোথায় জিনিসপত্র রাখবে, কখন জানলার বাইরে যেন না হাত বের করে বা না ঝোঁকে, when not to lean out of windows, and how to avoid speaking to strangers. Then they called their goodbyes, they bade each other bye, and the train pulled out of the station. এই pulled out আমরা জানি phrasal verb, আমরা আগে শিখেছি. The train moved out of the station. লেখক বলছেন, as I was totally blind at that time, was completely lacking his vision at that time. His eyes were sensitive only to light and darkness. শুধুমাত্র আলো বা অন্ধকার উনি বুঝতে পারতেন. So I was completely unable to tell what the girl looked like. মেয়েটার কোনো description or physical appearance এর কোনো description আমি দিতে পারবো না. কিন্তু I knew she wore slippers from the way they slapped against her heels. কিন্তু আমি এটা বলতে পারি ও চটি পড়েছিল from the sound বা the way the slippers hit against her heels. It would take me some time to discover something about her looks, and perhaps I never would. He admits that. But I liked the sound of her voice and even the sound of her slippers. The narrator brings the conversation. He starts the conversation. He says, "Are you going all the way to the Hera?" I must have been sitting in a dark corner because my voice startled her. বলছে আমি মনে হয় একটা অন্ধকার দিকে বসেছিলাম, ও বোধহয় আমাকে দেখতেই পারেনি কারণ একটা অন্ধকার কম্পার্টমেন্ট বলে, তো খুব চমকে উঠলো. She gave a little exclamation and said, "I did not know anyone else was here." তো মেয়েটা একটু startled হয়ে বললো যে আমি জানতাম না এখানে কেউ ছিল. Well, now this is the narrator's outlook. Well, it often happens that people with good eyesight fail to see what is right in front of them. They have too much to take in, I suppose. Narrator বলছে যে যারা দৃষ্টিশক্তি যাদের ভালো তাদের বোধহয় যা একদম সামনে হচ্ছে সেই অবজারভেশন পাওয়ারটা তাদের হয়তো খুব কম হয়, কারণ অনেক কিছু নিতে হয় তাদেরকে, অনেক কিছুর ব্যাপারে কনসেন্ট্রেট করতে হয়. সো দে ফেল টু অবজার্ভ. They have too much to take in, I suppose. Whereas people who cannot see but who can see very little, তাদের তো শুধু এসেনশিয়ালটা নেওয়া থাকে, তাই things register on their senses. Whereas people who cannot see or see very little have to take in only the essentials, whatever registers most tellingly on their remaining senses. The narrator says, similarly, as you are surprised on hearing my voice, even I didn't see you, but I heard you coming. Mark the words, I heard you coming. I wondered if I would be able to prevent her from discovering that I was blind. Now starts the game. He would now play a game of pretense to keep this fact hidden from the girl that he is blind. তো নিজে ভাবছে কি করে সেটাকে উনি মেয়েটার কাছে না প্রকাশিত হতে দেবেন, এটা কি করে হবে. তো নিজেই ভাবলেন স্ট্র্যাটেজি একটা হতে পারে, provided I keep to my seat, I thought it shouldn't be too difficult. It shouldn't be too difficult for me to keep this fact away from the girl, but keep this fact away from the girl, let this girl not know of the fact that I am blind. If I keep to my seat, it shouldn't be so difficult. মেয়েটা বললো, I'm getting off at Saharanpur. My aunt is meeting me there. তো সেটা শুনে narrator বললেন, then I better not get too familiar. ants are usually formidable creatures. So ants are usually inspiring creatures who inspire fear or respect. They are certainly formidable creatures. এই লাইনটা খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট। ants are usually formidable creatures. তারপরে the girl asks him, where are you going? He replies to Dehra and then to Mussoorie. Oh, how lucky you are. I wish I were going. I love the hills, especially in October. The narrator agrees with this girl and says, yes, this is the best time. I said, calling on my memories. Calling on, it's remembering, reminiscing. The hills are covered with wild dahlias, the sun is delicious, and at night you can sit in front of a log fire and drink a little brandy. So the narrator calls up to his mind memories of time spent in the hills at this particular period of time. Most of the tourists have gone away, the roads are quiet, almost deserted. And he reaffirms, yes, October is the best time. She was silent. I wondered if my words had touched her, if my words had made an impact on her, or whether she thought me to be a romantic fool. Then I made a mistake. What is it like outside? I asked. এবার যে এতক্ষণ ধরে একটা খেলার চেষ্টা করছিল to keep the fact that he is blind hidden from the girl, he suddenly makes a mistake by blurting out a question. What is it like outside? She seemed to find nothing strange in the question. Had she noticed already that I could not see? এই thoughts গুলো play across the narrator's mind. যে উনি নিজে বলছেন যে আমি ভুল করে ফেললাম, আমি জিজ্ঞেস করে ফেললাম what is it like outside? কিন্তু মেয়েটা কিন্তু found nothing strange with the question. তাহলে কি ও already notice করে ফেলেছিল যে আমি blind? narrator ভাবছে. But her next question removed my doubts. The girl says, why don't you look out of the window? So উনি বললেন, I moved easily along the berth and felt for the window ledge. The window was open. উনি উইন্ডোটার মুখোমুখি দাঁড়ালেন. I faced it, making a pretending or imitating that he is studying the landscape. The window was open and I faced it, making a pretense of studying the landscape. I heard the panting of the engine, the sound of the engine wheels, the rumble of the wheels, and in my mind's eye, the hypothetical visual recollection, he could see the telegraph poles flashing by. Flashing by is also a phrasal verb. So then he goes on to say, he ventures, he dares to say that, have you noticed that the trees seem to be moving while we seem to be standing still? When we look out of the window of a running train, we notice that the trees are running past by us while we are standing still. But she replies, it's very basic, that always happens. Do you chance to see any animals? Now the narrator was quite confident that Dehra had no animals. He knew there were hardly any more animals left in the jungles of Dehra. So he said no, quite confidently. He then turned from the window and faced the girl, and for some time they sat in silence. Then he breaks into the silence by saying, you have an interesting face. I remarked. I was becoming quite daring, but it was a safe remark. Few girls can resist flattery. She laughed pleasantly, a clear, ringing laugh. It's nice to be told I have an interesting face. I'm tired of people telling me I have a pretty face. So the narrator says, he breaks into the silence by saying, you have quite an interesting face. And the narrator admits that he was becoming quite daring by making such a remark about a girl on her face, and a girl whom he had met a few moments ago. But he said at the same time, it was a safe remark. And he says, few girls can resist flattery. They all fall a prey to flattery. Similarly, this girl too, she laughed pleasantly, and it was a clear, ringing laughter. So at this point of time, he states it was quite a safe remark for a person to make to a somewhat stranger. It's nice to be told I have an interesting face. I'm tired of people telling me I have a pretty face. So she replies, it's a compliment that I've received from you. It's nice to be told I have an interesting face, a face that draws attention of others. I'm quite tired of people telling me I have a pretty face. So you do have a pretty face, thought I. So he thought that, okay, fine, so you have a pretty face. But aloud he said, well, an interesting face can also be pretty. An interesting face can also be beautiful. You are a very gallant young man, she said. But why are you so serious? So she says, you are a brave, heroic man, but why are you so serious? He then thinks that he would laugh for her, but the thought of laughter only disturbed him and made him feel all the more lonesome. I thought then I would try to laugh for her, but the thought of laughter only made me feel troubled and lonely. And he says, we'll soon be at your station, and her station was Saharanpur. Thank goodness it's a short journey. I can't bear to stand in a train for more than 2 or 3 hours. So she says, thank God it's a short journey. It's a journey not more than a couple of hours, not lasting for more than a couple of hours, because I cannot stand to sit in a train for more than a couple of hours or so. But he says, I was prepared to sit there for the entire span of time, for almost any length of time, just to listen to her talking, just to hear her talk. Then he says, her voice like the sparkle of a mountain stream. He uses a metaphor, the sparkle of a mountain stream. And he keeps on thinking that as soon as she left the train, she would forget their brief encounter, their chance meeting, which lasted for a brief period of time. But this memory would last with him for a considerable period of time, or even some time after. As soon as she left the train, she would forget a brief encounter, but it would stay with me for the rest of the journey and for some time after. The engine's whistle shrieked, the carriage wheels changed their sound and rhythm. The girl got up and began to collect her things. I wondered if she wore her hair in a bun, or it was plaited. Perhaps it was hanging loose over her shoulders, or was it cut very short? Now he describes the other sounds that he could hear. The engine's whistle, it uttered a high-pitched piercing sound, it shrieked. The carriage wheels, they changed their sound and their rhythm, and the girl got up. She began to collect her things because it was time for her to board off the train. The narrator then falls thinking whether she wore her hair in a bun, in a tight coil, in a kupa, or if it was plaited, if it was braided. Perhaps he thought it could be also hanging loose over her shoulders, or it could also be cut very short. The train drew slowly into the station. When a train draws into the station, there are certain sounds that are very common that we hear, we get to see. Shouting of porters and vendors. Similarly, this happened here. And then you could hear a high-pitched female voice near the carriage door. There was a female voice. She was crying out to somebody, shrieking. It was a shrieking voice. And the narrator says the voice could possibly belong to the girl's aunt, who was supposed to receive her at Saharanpur. And the girl said goodbye. She was standing very close to me, so close that the perfume from her hair was tantalizing. Narrator says that she was standing so close near me that I could smell her hair, the perfume from her hair. It excited my senses. Which I even wanted to raise my hand and touch her hair, but she moved away. Only the scent of perfume lingered on. It still lingered where she stood. There was some confusion in the doorway. A man getting into the compartment stammered an apology. Then the door banged and the world was shut out again. I returned to my berth. The guard blew his whistle and we moved off. Once again, I had a game to play and a new fellow traveler. This line is important. Once again, I had a game to play and a new fellow traveler. So when the girl boards off, there was some confusion in the doorway. A man who was entering into the compartment, he had to stammer an apology. Then there was the sound of the door banging and the world was shut out. So he was left to himself in the compartment, and now he goes on to say he has a new fellow traveler. He got back to his berth. The guard blew the whistle. The train started. And he says that again I had to play that game. And what was the game? The game of hide and seek, that he had to hide from his fellow traveler the fact that he was blind. So he now has a new fellow traveler. So then he says that he got back to his compartment. He found the window. He sat in front of it. He stared into the daylight. As I previously said that his eyes were sensitive only to light and darkness. Though it was stark daylight outside, it was all darkness for him. So many things were happening outside the window. It could be a fascinating game. guessing what went on there. So he said the world outside was active. It was an active world. So a lot of things were happening outside the window. So he thought, let me sit and guess what all went out there. And guessing could be a fascinating game. Now the man who entered the compartment broke into is a phrasal verb, into his reverie, into of his state of being pleasantly lost in one's thought, into his state of daydreaming. So the new fellow traveler says, I must be disappointing you, cause I'm not as attractive a fellow traveler, a travelling companion as the one who just left, as the girl who had just left. Narrator makes a safe remark again, she was an interesting girl. Can you tell me, did she keep her hair long or short? The first thing, please tell me whether she wore her hair long or was it short? Now this man was a bit puzzled, he sounded puzzled. He said, I don't remember. Actually, it was her eyes I noticed, not her hair. Because all my attention to her face was drawn to her eyes and not her hair. Actually, she had beautiful eyes, but they were of no use to her. She had lovely eyes, beautiful eyes, but her eyes were actually useless. She was completely blind. Didn't you notice? So this was the situational irony. The man says, you're asking me about her hair. I don't remember. Because it was only her eyes that had drawn all my attention to it. She had lovely eyes. She had beautiful eyes. But they were completely useless to her. And it's strange that you didn't notice. Didn't you notice the fact that she was completely blind? So this man, this narrator, who had put up a game of pretense, now is faced with the answer that even this girl had played with him. This girl had also tried her level best to keep this fact concealed from him that she too was blind. So this is an engaging story told from the perspective of a blind man, and we find that the narrator's eyes are sensitive only to light and darkness. So in a gist, we can say that while going to Dehradun by train, he comes across a girl, he starts a conversation with her, he gradually becomes interested in her. He tactfully hides his blindness from the girl to impress her. But this conversation does not last long. The girl bids him goodbye as the train arrives at a destination, which was Saharanpur. After a departure, a new male passenger comes into the compartment. From that man, the narrator gets to know that the girl was completely blind. Now this revelation shocks the narrator. This was a situational irony that Ruskin Bond was talking about. He feels that he has deceived himself, he had deceived the girl, and the girl in turn had deceived him. So this is the ironical twist that makes the story so very appealing.